Last week, I was in Uganda. That was on 14th of August. On Friday, we had our first networking dinner outside of Nairobi, Kenya. This was an opportunity for us to get into new frontiers and new markets to understand what are the dynamics in these different countries, what are the needs of the professionals, but most importantly, where are the opportunities to drive growth of the industry and to deliver value. When we did that visit, and actually I was there having conversations with the regulator, the head of secretary to the National Drug Authority, Uganda was in the room, Secretary General Uganda Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association, and professionals across different domains, from consultants, local professionals working in clinical settings, but also enablers to the ecosystem. Some of the key things that were coming out clearly is the fact that the continent still needs talent, needs workforce within the industry, or anchored on the fundamentals of the operations in pharmaceutical industries. That is one of the key things that actually was a highlight for me, by the virtue that when we started our training academy, the African Pharmaceutical and Biomedical Sciences Institute in 2023, the key was how do we bridge academic training from institutions to make these professionals market ready for the skills that the industry needs. And I believe there's an opportunity for us to work with the Ugandan community to further this conversation but deliver value where it needs to happen. When I talk to the industry, some of the key challenges they contend with is almost the same as what we experience in other markets. Most procurers, especially government, when the governments are buying, they are not paying for these products. And ultimately, when you're not paying or paying over a delayed period of time, the cost of business it compounds, and ultimately affordability is affected. So how do we enable access? By creating the right market incentive. One, preferential procurement policies, which would be fundamental and enabling to ensure the industry can grow. But when you're offering that, on the other end, you need to ask yourself, if I'm buying from them, how am I paying? Because you might reduce the cost of doing business, guarantee them a market, but that market will make them be as expensive as possible to be able to afford the capital. And some of our key challenges in the market is that capital interest rates are very high. And look at it at an average in Kenya is 16 to 19 or thereabout percent interest rates per year. In Uganda, we're talking up to 24% interest rate per year. Imagine this person is competing with an Indian company that is getting capital at a rate of 4%, and a British company that is getting capital at the rate of 2% interest rate per year. It is not a fair competing market. So therefore then, if we cannot lower the cost of capital by the virtue that our economies are relatively nascent, but also the risk profile is considered higher, then how do we ensure the other fundamentals? When we buy from you, are we paying in time? When we are buying, can we give you that preferential consideration so that you grow? And that is guided by the fact that these industries not only produce medicines, they produce medicines and other health products technologies, but also creating employment. Substantial number of people are employed. They are spurring growth of our economies. And when they export products outside the market, that is foreign exchange. And that foreign exchange is a critical enabler to anchor the economies of the member countries that we're working with. So these are some of the key insights that I gathered from there, and I feel there's more work to be done, and it is the starting point of the journey that we are on as African Pharmaceutical Network, and we're looking to work with different professional associations, but also different industry associations. From the regulator standpoint, and this is one of the key experiences that I actually shared with the team, is that Uganda National Drug Authority has been a reliable partner in delivering access to products, but also a reliable partner to the industry. When you get notified and actually being informed of a particular process timeline, you're guaranteed it work as per that particular timeline, and if there are delays, they are not as substantial, which has been a good reliability metrics in terms of my professional experience, but also the engagement that I've had with the industry. That is already a win. How do we move it to the next level? The NDA Secretary to the authority, that is Dr. Nahamya, indicated it specifically that in his mission is to ensure that Uganda NDA can achieve ML3 and if possible ML4 during his tenure, and that is already a journey that is on. When you look at the new law that was passed in April and signed off by the President, that is a step in the right direction. We have the legal infrastructure to get us to where we need to be. That legal infrastructure strengthens the authority who is regulating the market, but also it gives power for the industry to be able to drive growth on where it needs to be, because competitiveness is anchored on quality. Quality is ascertained and certified by the regulatory mandate within which you're operating. And I see these as opportunities on where we can move forward. And when you look at the continent, Kenya, we're talking about 30% of the local products being produced by the local industry. Uganda, they're talking about 25%. And the challenge that it was to the room is, how do we move 25%, 30%, to 10% in some of the markets, or even less than 1%, for example, in Burundi, to a level that we can say, in the next 10 years, are we at 50% of local manufacturing and local production? At 50%, the industry will need, I would say, 10 times the current workforce that they're employing, which means we'll have created more jobs in our markets. That is an opportunity. Our economies means we will be exporting more of our products as well, other than just supplying our local needs. The foreign exchange would actually have a positive return because we'll be exporting more than we are importing, and we're reducing the capital outflows in that ecosystem. So these are opportunities. The question is, how are we moving forward? It's amazing that we have now a local contact person based in Uganda, Dr. Hilary Masolo, who will be leading our engagements in that market. And for those of you who are keen on engaging, reach out. Let's see how do we help grow the Ugandan market, either in terms of training professionals in the different academic programs, but also tailored solutions. But on the other end, working with the industry to help them unlock value where that value lies, but also deliver that value to the ecosystem, that is the people who are procuring the products, the people who are using them, so that we get value for each of us. Thank you.